Students making their way to lectures in their first semester at Stanford University on the west coast of the United States. They are developing the skills that will help them to think critically and reason logically. These skills will prove invaluable when securing places in their future academic careers or employment, whether at home or abroad.
I think that there is a keen awareness, not only in our country, but in other countries in the world, that it's just not enough to teach kids basic factual information.
More and more people are recognizing the benefits of students developing so-called 21st century skills. But what are the skills required in the 21st century? And how important are they for every student? We'll be asking two educational experts about how different parts of the world are meeting the challenges of teaching skills for the 21st century. The United States of America continues to compete in a global economy that demands innovation. We asked Dr. Stephen Payne to explain how the Partnership for 21st Century Skills advocates 21st century readiness for every student.
I think the Partnership for 21st Century Skills in the U.S. has brought a very keen awareness to the fact that it's very important to teach what we traditionally have known as the 3 R's. But I think also the Partnership's true claim to success at this point is the fusing of what we call the 4 C's: critical thinking and problem solving, collaboration skills, communication skills, both written and oral, as well as creativity, teaching kids to be creative and innovative. All fused within those 3 R's, so to speak, or what I would call the core subjects.
Professor Patrick Griffin of the University of Melbourne is leading a research project that proposes ways of assessing skills for the 21st century and encourages teaching and adopting those skills in the classroom.
For the past 3.5 years, I've been engaged in one of the most exciting projects that I've ever been in. We've been developing assessment and teaching strategies for 21st century skills. The one thing that stands out in this project as something that's absolutely new is the way in which the students are scored and their performances are recorded. My view is that that will change interactive computer-based assessment forever.
So what skills are required to succeed in the 21st century?
We need kids to understand how to discern knowledge, how to be information literate, how to be media literate, how to understand how to apply information communication technology types of skills.
We need to differentiate the curriculum between what's called a content-based curriculum, which emphasises the recall of facts and information, and a skills-based curriculum, which emphasises the process and the way in which kids learn rather than what they learn. And we've got to shift that so that we encourage teachers to encourage learning to learn, not learning to recite. That's a fundamental shift that needs to take place quite urgently in education.
The 3 R's, the basics in science and mathematics and reading and so forth, are still critically important. And so we have to become very intentional as we teach mathematics, as we teach reading, as we teach science, to help kids solve real-life contextual problems within those classrooms, within those core content areas.
But this change isn't just brought about by the teachers and learners. The progress goes hand in hand with technological advances.
Today in education, technology can have such a profound impact on accelerating student learning if skillfully used by facilitators of knowledge, thus the classroom teacher, or educators, or school leaders. But we have to be very intentional about how we prepare those adults with our kids to use that technology.
Parents will be affected too. I mean, you're going to have 7 or 8-year-old coming home with a tablet computer that can do very sophisticated things. You've got to get the students to help you learn how to do the work on the computer as well, so that it becomes much more interactive between parent and student, and parent and child, working with a tablet, working with a computer, and doing the sorts of games and exercises that they do at school, but do it together with the children.
In the United States, we have some shining examples where there are one-to-one tablet per pupil ratios that exist. And in such environments, there are some real exciting things that can occur. Can we say that that is pervasive across the board in all schools? No, it's not. And so at that point, it becomes a real equity issue. There are districts that are experimenting with bring your own technology policies, where kids can bring their technologies that they have at home to school, which lessens the cost, obviously, of that technology for a school system or for a particular school. But it still becomes an equity issue for those children that are less fortunate, that come from poverty backgrounds, that cannot afford their own technology. So that remains an issue that we need to tackle if we're truly to equalize educational opportunity for all children.
The school itself will never be replaced as a social institution. There's no doubt about that. The interactions between people will remain important. In fact, they might become more important because we become lost in our tablets and our netbooks and our smartphones. You can see kids all the time with their smartphone looking down, thumbs working feverishly, and they're in a world of their own. The social side of school is likely to become even more important.
21st century learning is not predicated on technology, but technology as a tool and as a vehicle is the great equalizer to bring 21st century learning to all children in all parts of the world, even the remotest parts of the world.
But wherever they may be based, how do students and educators cope in a continually evolving education system?
We have to teach and enable kids to learn to think critically, to be creative, to collaborate, to problem solve, to learn how to learn, because they can't keep up with the flood of information that's available on the internet. It's doubling every couple of days. It's a phenomenal rate of change of the amount of information available. There's no way in the world that we could expect kids to learn all of that, so we can't sample it. We've got to teach them how to be critical thinkers and critical readers and critical appraisals of information.
Sometimes I've engaged in discussions, so who are the real early adopters and adapters, if you will, to 21st century learning? And my answer would be the kids, the students themselves, because it's their generation that really demands this kind of learning. It's the kind of stimuli that they face all around them in today's world. And those that don't easily adapt are those that have learned traditional routes, that have become embedded in traditional practice for a long period of time, that have not been allowed to flourish in a culture of creativity and innovation, to try new things and to learn new things. And I'm referring perhaps to my generation, if you will.
Children of today are learning quite differently to what we did in the past. They're learning faster, they're learning more, they're learning differently. So the change in learning is probably going to be ushered in and carried by that new generation of children. The older folks such as us, we learn in a different way, and we probably won't change.
So just how big is the scale of the challenge still to come?
I think we are rebuilding education systems from the ground floor up, but we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do in the realm of professional development, in terms of how we assess 21st century skills, in terms of creating tools and resources that can be used at the fingertips of teachers, educators, principals, parents, others in the educational community.
Difficult to see how education is going to transform in the 21st century. We're 10-12% into the century now, and we're still talking about education for the 21st century. At some stage, we're going to have to start talking about education for this century. What's it going to be like in 80 years' time? I have no idea.
The world has changed. It's become so complex. It's an exciting place to live, and so why don't our classrooms reflect that opportunity, that excitement that exists in our world today?